The rain cascades down the hospital window as Junho's unconscious form lies motionless on the white sheets, his face pale under the fluorescent lights. Soo-jin sits beside him, her trembling fingers barely touching his bandaged hand, tears streaming down her cheeks as she whispers words he cannot hear. The heart monitor beeps steadily in the background, the only sound breaking the suffocating silence of the room where two souls who have loved and lost each other for 10 years finally find themselves united in vulnerability. The morning sun filters through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Ching Corporation's sleek conference room, casting geometric shadows across the polished marble table. Kim Junho, the 32-year-old CEO of the successful restaurant chain, adjusts his perfectly tailored charcoal suit as he reviews quarterly reports, his sharp jawline tense with concentration. His assistant, Park Yirin, enters with calculated precision, her navy blazer impeccable and her expression professionally neutral as she places a steaming cup of coffee beside his laptop. The aroma fills the room, but Junho barely acknowledges it, his mind already racing through the day's scheduled meetings and strategic decisions that will determine his company's expansion into the domestic market. Across the city, Lee Soo-jin stands before a full-length mirror in her luxury apartment, the morning light revealing the elegant curves of her silhouette as she examines herself in a flowing emerald dress. Her reflection shows a woman who has transformed herself from an awkward teenager into one of Korea's most sought-after models, but her dark eyes hold shadows of insecurity that no amount of success can erase. Her manager, Kim Nan-woo, bustles around the spacious room, adjusting lighting equipment and checking his phone for updates on their latest campaign, while Soo-jin practices poses that will soon grace magazine covers across the nation. The carefully orchestrated world of their fake relationship begins to crumble when Junho storms into Yirin's office, his usually composed demeanor fractured by frustration, as he demands to terminate the contract that binds him to Soo-jin in a publicity romance designed to boost both their careers. Yirin's face remains impassive, but her fingers tighten around her tablet as she explains the financial and professional consequences of his decision, her voice steady, despite the chaos this will unleash upon their meticulously planned marketing strategy. The weight of expectation from investors, media, and fans creates an invisible pressure that seems to compress the air in the modern office space, where floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the bustling Seoul skyline. Soo-jin discovers Junho's intention to break their contract when Yirin arrives at her apartment with the news, and her carefully maintained composure shatters like glass hitting concrete. She retreats to her bedroom, surrounding herself with designer clothes and accessories that suddenly feel meaningless, her hands shaking as she opens bottle after bottle of expensive mineral water in a desperate attempt to fill the emptiness growing inside her chest. The irony of drowning her sorrows in something so pure and simple while surrounded by the artificial luxury of her celebrity lifestyle is not lost on her, and she finds herself laughing bitterly at the absurdity of her situation. The charity gala at the Grand Hyatt represents everything glamorous about Seoul's elite social scene, with crystal chandeliers casting prismatic light across marble floors where Korea's most influential figures mingle in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. Junho arrives in his black formal wear, his expression stoic as photographers capture his every move, while Soo-jin makes her entrance in a stunning midnight blue gown that hugs her figure like liquid starlight, her smile radiant for the cameras despite the turmoil raging beneath her perfectly applied makeup. The evening unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance, with both maintaining their public personas while their private worlds collapse around them. Behind the scenes, Soo-jin has not eaten in 3 days to fit into her dress, her determination to look flawless masking the dangerous lengths she will go to maintain her image. Junho notices her pale complexion and the way she steadies herself against walls when she thinks no one is watching, his concern breaking through the emotional barriers he has constructed around his heart. When she excuses herself from the gala's main event, claiming a need for fresh air, he follows her to the hotel's rooftop terrace, where Seoul's skyline sparkles like scattered diamonds against the velvet night. The confrontation on the terrace strips away years of pretense, as Soo-jin finally reveals her true identity as Junho, the girl Junho loved and lost during their high school years. The wind whips through her hair as she accuses him of betraying her love by exposing her private letter to the school principal, her voice breaking with the pain she has carried for a decade. Junho's face transforms from confusion to recognition to anguish as he realizes the woman he has been searching for has been beside him all along, hidden behind the glamorous facade of Korea's modeling industry. The truth emerges like a dam bursting, flooding the space between them with revelations that reshape their entire understanding of the past. Junho explains how his mother intercepted Yoo-won's love letter, how she orchestrated the public humiliation that drove Yoo-won from school, and how he spent years searching for the girl who disappeared from his life without explanation. His voice cracks with emotion as he describes returning to school after recovering from pneumonia, only to discover that she had transferred and moved away, leaving no trace of her existence except the memories that haunted his dreams. Yoo-won's world tilts on its axis as she processes this information, her hands gripping the terrace railing as she struggles to reconcile the boy she thought had betrayed her with the man standing before her, his eyes filled with the same love she remembered from their youth. The city lights blur through her tears as she realizes that the anger and resentment she has nurtured for 10 years has been built upon a foundation of lies and manipulation, orchestrated by a mother who believed she was protecting her son from an unsuitable match. In a moment of desperate vulnerability, Yoo-won steps toward the edge of the terrace, her emotional pain manifesting as a physical need to escape the overwhelming reality of their situation. Junho moves without thinking, his body responding to protect her even as his mind struggles to process the magnitude of their shared trauma. The struggle that follows is brief but intense, resulting in both of them tumbling to the ground, Junho's head striking the concrete with a sickening thud that echoes across the rooftop like a gunshot in the night. The hospital becomes a sanctuary of sterile white walls and hushed voices, where time seems suspended in the antiseptic atmosphere of worry and waiting. Yoo-won sits vigil beside Junho's bed, her glamorous facade completely abandoned as she wears simple clothes and no makeup, her natural beauty shining through the vulnerability that hospital lighting reveals. Yirin moves through the corridors with practiced efficiency, handling the media inquiries and business concerns that continue to swirl around their public lives, while privately struggling with her own emotions about the unfolding drama. When Junho finally awakens, his first sensation is not pain, but the return of taste that has been absent from his life for years. A cruel irony that the trauma of nearly losing Yoo-won has restored something he thought was gone forever. He sits up slowly, his eyes finding hers across the small hospital room where machines beep reassuringly, and afternoon sunlight streams through partially closed blinds. The medication makes him groggy, but his mind is clear enough to understand that their story is far from over, that the revelation of truth has opened wounds that will take time to heal. Yoo-won's confession comes in whispered words that hang in the recycled air of the hospital room like fragile butterflies. She admits that despite 10 years of success and transformation, she has never stopped being the insecure girl who believed herself unworthy of love, especially from someone whose world seems so different from her own. The designer clothes and magazine covers have been armor against a world that once made her feel small, but sitting in this sterile room beside the man who nearly died reaching for her, she realizes that no amount of external validation can heal the internal wounds that have shaped her adult life. Junho listens with the patience of someone who has waited a decade for this conversation, his hand slowly reaching across the space between their chairs to touch her fingers with the gentleness of someone handling precious glass. He tells her about the restaurant he built not just as a business empire, but as a tribute to the memory of their young love. How every dish he created carried the flavor of hope that someday she would taste his cooking again. The irony that his success came from the loss of his own ability to taste is not lost on either of them, a cruel joke that the universe has finally decided to reverse. The hospital room becomes their confessional, where years of misunderstanding and pain are examined under the harsh fluorescent lights that reveal every flaw and every truth. Yoo-won speaks of the eating disorders and self-harm that followed her public humiliation, how she rebuilt herself from the ashes of that traumatic experience, but never truly healed the girl who had been destroyed. Junho shares the depression and isolation that followed her disappearance, how he threw himself into work and success as a way to fill the void she left behind. never realizing that the void was shaped exactly like her and could only be filled by her return. As evening approaches and the hospital settles into its quieter rhythms, they begin to understand that their journey back to each other will not be simple or quick. The damage done by his mother's interference runs deeper than just a broken teenage romance. It has shaped their adult selves in ways that cannot be undone with a single conversation or revelation. Yoo-won still struggles with the belief that she is not good enough for his world, while Junho must confront the reality that his passive acceptance of his mother's control contributed to their separation. Their hands intertwine as they sit in the gathering dusk, neither speaking as they absorb the weight of everything that has been said and everything that remains unresolved. The heart monitor continues its steady rhythm, a metronome marking time in a space where past and present have finally collided, leaving them to navigate the wreckage and possibility of what might still be built from the ruins of their first love. Yirin enters the room with a tablet in her hands and an expression that suggests new complications have arisen, her professional mask slipping slightly to reveal genuine concern for both her employer and the woman whose life has become inextricably linked with his. She hesitates at the threshold, unwilling to disturb the fragile peace that has settled over the room. But the urgency of her news cannot wait for a more convenient moment. The message she delivers is like a stone thrown into still water, sending ripples of consequence across their newly calm surface. Junho's mother has discovered his hospitalization and is en route to Seoul, her arrival promising to bring the very force that separated them once before back into their lives, at the moment when they are most vulnerable to her influence. Yoo-won's face pales as she realizes that the woman who destroyed her teenage self is about to confront the adult she has become, and she is not certain she has the strength to face that particular demon. As the episode draws to its close, Yoo-won rises from her chair beside Junho's bed, her movement fluid but filled with the tension of someone preparing for battle. The hospital room that has been their sanctuary suddenly feels like a trap, and the approaching confrontation with his mother looms like a storm cloud on the horizon of their tentative reconciliation. Junho reaches for her hand, his grip strong despite his recent trauma, his eyes pleading with her not to run again. The final shot captures them in silhouette against the hospital window, Seoul's lights twinkling beyond the glass like stars in an urban sky, their figures small against the vastness of the city that has witnessed their separation and reunion. The question hanging in the air is whether their love can survive its second encounter with the forces that destroyed it the first time, or if history will repeat itself with even more devastating consequences.